So Mark and Kate, it's great to be chatting to you today. I'm aware that you've been at the church now for some 20 years. Quite a long time, isn't it?
Quite old.
And all that time, King's Church has been meeting in Kingston, and also it's been meeting in one venue. So when we started sensing that God was maybe leading us not to return to the Rose Theatre, how did you feel about that?
I think a whole mixture of emotions, really. Like you say, it's a bit scary when you say that we've been at King's Church for 20 years. Suddenly you realise that's a long time. But actually over that time, we've been in the 3, possibly 4 venues, but obviously more during these times. But I guess there's been so much change recently. And I suppose I've kind of felt when we're at our period at the Rose Theatre, that was like our baseline, I suppose. And like suddenly everything gets thrown up in the air. Coronavirus hits and we go into lockdown, got online church, great, go back for a short period, meeting in venues. But I suppose it's always been with that context of, well, actually things probably will go back to, I guess, normal. But now we're saying there's a new normal. That's a bit of a cliche, isn't there? But we're not going back to what we were. And I think that takes quite a bit of mental adjustment.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some sadness. Like it's lovely to meet all together, isn't it? So definitely I'm pleased that church will be looking at opportunities to still make that happen sometimes as a whole church, but also a sense of excitement, and it's great to know that we're following where God is leading, so that I guess excitement tinged with a bit of sadness, I suppose.
I suppose there's relational elements, aren't there? Well, certainly initially kind of thinking of not going back to the Rose where everyone is gathering on a weekly basis, where you know chances are you'll be able to bump into somebody that you've not seen in that week and have a good chat with them, spend a bit of time with them that you wouldn't normally do otherwise. And I think initially there was a reaction that we felt that, well, actually there's probably a set of people therefore that we will see less often, and I think that does come with a bit of sadness that perhaps cohesive group that we did have as a church might not be there. I think, as Kate was saying, as we've gone through that process, there's a bit of sadness wrapped up in that, but actually I think there's lots of exciting opportunities as well. But also I don't think it's necessarily as that initial kind of shock as, oh no, we'll miss not going back. Actually, there's still going to be loads of opportunities. We're still going to be one church. We are still going to be able to call up our friends and say, let's meet up. We're still going to, as a church, try and have services, events, etc. together as one church. I guess the Vision and Community Night coming up is a good example of that, where, or admittedly it'll be over Zoom, but hopefully future ones, as constraints continue to ease, we'll be able to do things like that increasingly in person.
Yeah, and I'd love to get the families together, obviously, across the two venues. I think there's loads. Once we're allowed to meet with more than 2 households, I think there's loads of scope for getting a bunch of families at a park for an afternoon and enjoying a picnic and some games, those sorts of things. Obviously, Louise has spent, and us as a King's Kids team have spent a long time building a kids group, a King's Kids session, and I know Louise prayed for years for 30, and we were just getting to that, and now it feels like we're like changing it up and moving again. Also, our kids are split into 2 groups, but we're definitely committed to making sure we've got excellent kids provision in the 2, and then future venues.
Okay, so with the new venues, or at least where we're meeting at the moment, at Thames Ditton and New Malden, so how do you feel about the fact it's not in Kingston?
I suppose it's all not by chance, but we've ended up in New Malden and Thames Ditton because God's opened the doors in those places, and it feels like as God continues to speak to us that those are the right places for us to be in right now. But that's not to say that our hearts moved away from Kingston at all. I think that there have been so many prophecies, particularly about sort of the tent pegs stretching over the borough, that is so relevant, and it's been so informative in terms of our prayer times and as we've been seeking God. And so there is no shift in focus away from Kingston. I still see it very much that we will continue to serve Kingston. We still have several people and life groups in and around Kingston, and who knows what the future will hold. But it'll be exciting if as we grow, can we get more venues, and so I think Kingston's going to continue to be very much in our vision as we go.